the football is back, John. The Inter-County Championship is back, and two clubs quite close to you as well that you've won Connaught championships with, Mayo and Leitrim, in action against each other this weekend. There's not many people giving Leitrim a chance, John, but as they say, every cloud has a silver lining, and there will be problems that Leitrim will try and cause Mayo this weekend.
Well, they will. They have the game at home as well, I suppose. They'll be looking to kind of, Carrick-on-Shannon has always been a fortress, if you like, in the past, and I'm sure Leitrim are hoping that will be the way on Sunday as well. However, you'd have to say that Leitrim, they just played one league game since they conceded the match against Down, ran up, put up a good performance against Tipperary, but you'd have to imagine that the gap in class that Mayo are obviously just after relegated to Division 2 in the league, but you'd imagine that they'd have too much experience on the day. But certainly there's some fine footballers in Leitrim. I mean, they're especially in the forward line. You have Gavin Dolan, you have Ryan O'Rourke, and there's a lot of quality players there. But I'm not sure what stage they're at as regards in their. This is a unique championship. Like, it's in wet, heavy conditions. The weather between now and Sunday is promised, a lot of rain. So the conditions will be very heavy. So that obviously will favour, if you like, the more physical type of player. And I probably Mayo would have, maybe the stronger type player on that. It wouldn't suit some of the lighter forwards maybe that Leitrim might have.
And as you said, going up to Carrick-on-Shannon, it is a fortress. But at the same time, any Mayo game you go to, John, you could be 10 kilometres outside of Castlebar, you'll hear the Mayo chant in McHale Park. They thrive on the crowd there. That's going to be a factor in the weekend as well.
It is. I mean, it's unique in many ways. This championship, it's in winter time. It's no crowds there. All of that, So it is. I mean, the atmosphere, or the 16th man, as it were, won't be there. So it'll be interesting to see how it develops. But the other thing is that most teams will have to, no matter, Mayo will be probably rolling hot favourites going into this match, but they'll have to be careful because if Leitrim get off to a good start, everything is on the line here. I mean, there was the safety net in the last 20 years of the qualifiers. That's all gone now. So there will be some upsets along the way, but I don't think no matter how much you stretch the imagination, I don't think that there'll be an upset in this game. I'd expect Mayo to win by 5 or 6 points at least. But I could see Leitrim living with them for a good period of the game. And for Leitrim, what will be very important for them is to get off to a good start in the game. In other words, that Mayo don't start bossing this game from the beginning, because in the last number of years in the Connaught Championship, Leitrim, it was Roscommon they played on a number of occasions, and Roscommon in the first 10 or 15 minutes had a big score up, and basically it was playing catch up after that. Leitrim will have to guard against that the next day, but they have, if you like, some quite experienced players like Paddy Maguire, Donald Rinn, Shane Moran, if he wasn't playing last Sunday, I'm not sure whether he'd be there or not, and Dara Rooney and Gavin Dolan up in the forward line. So look, there's a fair bit of talent there in Leitrim, but I think that Mayo overall will have too much experience for them.
And in this situation, I'm sure, John, you've been in it as a manager as well with plenty of different teams, that you go into a game and you're playing against a lesser opposition. In this case, a team that are 2 divisions below you. We saw it only a couple of years ago. Well, more than a couple of years ago. It was Mayo and Sligo in a Connaught final. Mayo went out. Aidan O'Shea scored, I think, 3-4, 3-5 on the day. They kind of showed their hand against the bigger teams, the Dublins and the Kerrys that year. They showed what they were going to do, putting Aidan O'Shea on the edge of the square. But Mayo have a point to prove this weekend as well. So from a manager's point of view, would you go out with maybe not a second string team, but giving more players an opportunity, or would you be going all out to blow Leitrim out of the water?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I think James Horton has indicated that, I think it was mentioned to him after the Galway game, for instance, that, that it was a great win in that game and that had a lot of regulars to come back. Well, he said he was quoted as saying that, who's the regulars now? I was interested to know against Tyrone that he didn't actually give, the likes of Keith Higgins or Colin Boyle or some of these players a run if he was going to play them this week. So maybe perhaps he's going to go with the younger outfit, which, there's no doubt there's some very talented players there, but there won't be young McLaughlin from Westport, Moran from Westport, Tommy Conroy is a real... a very, very exciting forward that has just come on the scene from the Neil club. So, I mean, they're coming off having been beaten by Tyrone, so I'd imagine that will focus their minds very much to get off to a winning start here. And that's the way they'll see it. I mean, they won't be looking past Sunday, but on the other hand, they have a tough run to Connaught final if they get to it, so they want to get over this with the least amount of fuss. But Leitrim, I think for the good of football, it would be good if Leitrim would really put it up to them.
And even for a certain amount of the game, at least. I spoke to Michael Moyles, Pa Ranahan and Paddy McGill earlier. They all called the Connaught Championship. They all said Mayo were going to win the Connaught Championship this year. Would you be of the same mindset yourself?
Well, to be honest, I think from where I'm sitting at the minute, I would, like, Mayo are a team in transition at the minute. And, I think that's going to, now that they have been relegated to Division 2, I think that's going to speed up a little bit. I think that they're in there with a shout, but I'll tell you, if they get over Sunday, first of all, and if they, they'll have it all done if they beat Roscommon. I think Roscommon, of the big three, if you like, Roscommon, Galway, Mayo, have the more mature, better developed team. All of their players are in their mid-20s. They've been around the block for a few years. Anthony Cunningham has all his squad together. The Murchers are back. The Dailies, the Crompton back in the middle of the field. They have a full squad to pick from. If I was to nail it at the minute, I think Roscommon should be favourites based on what we've seen over the last couple of weeks, and they have Mayo at home. So I think that if Mayo come out of Hyde Park with a win, it'll be a job well done. But I see that very much as a 50-50 game, and I see Roscommon probably have the more settled team at the minute. I mean, they went up to Cavan with kind of a lot of changes from the previous week against Armagh, and were able to get through there. So I'd be putting them nearly ahead of the pack at this stage, as I would see it from here,
And what about Galway, John? That's 4 predictions I've got in the last hour or so. Like Galway, a county that you won 4 Connaught Championships with as well. I know, look, against Mayo, they were very poor against Mayo, and maybe put it up against Dublin. Is it injuries that's affecting Galway, do you think, this year?
Well, I think that, it's part of it. I think you have a new manager in there, Porrick Joyce. They had some fantastic form before the lockdown, but they've come poorly enough out of the lockdown, and they have injuries. I mean, Damien Comer now looks like that he's going to miss the whole of if not the whole of the championship, certainly the whole of the Connaught Championship. Yeah. He's a huge loss to them, and they don't have a settled team. I mean, I've seen. I think they had 8 changes from the Mayo game to last Sunday against Dublin, so they're not a settled squad. So they do need to. Now, having said that, they're playing Sligo in a semi-final, and you'd have to favour them to win that game. So really, what Galway should be looking at this is that Porrick Joyce quietly looking at it. Obviously, again, they can't take Sligo for granted, but if they really have to peak for just one game in Connaught if that were the case, if they did overcome Sligo, they're very much, they're in the mix. Like, as I said, it's very hard to divide out, but I don't think there'll be a Connaught team this year winning in All Ireland or anything like that. That'd be my feeling on it.
As I said, there's 9 games this weekend. As we said before we went on air, there's 9 games this weekend, and one of them being in Connaught. You look at the eyes of the country are going to be on Mayo, regardless of who they're playing. But the game that I think everyone's going to be looking at this weekend is Donegal and Tyrone. A game that some people think will decide Ulster, and maybe right in saying so. Are you looking forward to the game yourself?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a real prospect of a game. It's in Ballybofey. You have two teams that would favour themselves. If you had a qualifier system this year, you'd fancy both of those to be in the last 8, and all of a sudden one of them is going to be out of the championship on Sunday evening. So there's going to be, we saw Donegal's firm intent when they ascended kind of more or less a second string team, or a lot of changes down to play Kerry at the weekend. So they have their eye on the ball. They have some very talented young players, together with the experience of the Michael Murphys and a number of those players, like certainly Paddy McBrearty, I think, is back for Sunday as well. Now Tyrone really show they're physically strong. They have Conor McKenna returning from the Australian rules is a huge boost to them, and I'm sure Mickey Hart will be bemoaning the fact that he hasn't. The full forward who's out with a cruciate ligament. What is his name?
Carl McShane.
McShane, yeah. I mean, he's a huge loss to them. But young Derek Hanavan as well. So they really have a very exciting forward line. Which showed with the score that they raked up on 3-14 against Mayo at the weekend. So they're going to be, so this is very, very much a 50-50 game. Don't be surprised if there's extra time and they all have to be decided on the day, so it could come down to penalties. But certainly, whoever finds themselves out of the championship will be quite unlucky, because certainly either of those teams would be favourites to take the Ulster title.
Without a doubt, and from what we've seen on RTE this year, the Tyrone boys know about taking penalties. They've had quite a few of their championship games decided by penalties. Would you be able to call the game yourself, John?
Well, I think probably perhaps Donegal might have they have maybe the overall balance as a team. They probably have more strength and depth, and Michael Murphy certainly is a brilliant leader on the field. And perhaps they might edge it from that point of view. I don't think the Tyrone defence is as rock solid as it was in the past, when you had the Conor Gormleys and the McMahons and those lads and Ryan McMenamin. So I think it'll be interesting, because you have two exceptionally good forward lines and probably defences that aren't quite as good. So I'd expect an exciting game, a high scoring game, but perhaps Donegal might shade it.
I'm going to ask you now, John, the 4 provincial winners. So you've already said Roscommon. I think we know who's going to win Leinster as well. You've already said Roscommon for Connaught, Ulster and Munster.
Yeah, Dublin obviously, and Leinster. Munster, I'd see Kerry. I think, I can see overall, I can see Kerry being the team that's in the best position. Now they won't get it easy against Cork, but they will beat Cork, and they're playing tremendous football at the minute, and just watching them. Okay, Donegal might have had a weekend team out or whatever, but the telepathy that's there in that forward line at the minute, and there's forwards seems to be growing on trees down there. You have the Sean O'Shea and the Clifford, but now you have Tony Brosnan as well. Yeah. Then you have Moynihan and Gavin White and these fellas. There seem to be while the worries that Kerry would have themselves, that their defence wasn't probably as tight or as they would have liked, but they play a system there which covers up for any inadequacies, and I think that they're red hot favourites, not just to win Munster but to challenge for the ultimate prize this year. In Munster, in Ulster, look at the winner of this game, and I've gone for Donegal. I think that they will have a tremendous chance. There are other teams there that like Monaghan, who are very hard to beat, but will find it hard at the same time to win. I think they'll be good enough for Cavan at the weekend, and Armagh are an interesting team in the sense that they're playing Kerry at the weekend. If they get over that, I think then they may have the winners of Tyrone and Donegal. I'm not sure of that, but certainly they're a team that has improved in recent times, and they'll challenge. But ultimately, you'd have to favour the winner of the Donegal-Tyrone game, and that probably for me would be Donegal.
And the ultimate prize, as you spoke of there, would you be thinking Kerry for the ultimate prize?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I just think that Dublin, there's no question about it. If they could win, if they can win this knockout championship in the next few weeks, certainly there'll be no arguments about who's the best team in the history of the GA then. But I just wonder if, there is a fair bit of mileage on the clock with some of these fellas. Keane O'Sullivan, for instance, who has been tremendous kind of organiser in the defence. Philly McMahon, they're all kind of, their career is probably a little bit in decline. Okay, they have a huge assembly line coming through. Jack McCaffrey isn't there this year, and he's a huge loss to them. So I just think that the benefit of Kerry, going down narrowly in the final to them last year, I just feel that possibly new management coming in Dublin as well, and it takes a little time to settle in. And with this knockout championship, they won't get any test in Leinster. So I just feel that they might be caught this year, and that if the teams that should do that, it'd be Kerry. So that would be my ultimate tip to go on to win the All Ireland in 2020.
And just finally, John, I know. Look, at the league was fragmented this year. There's no backdoor, but if there was to be a team that you can see coming through, that's going to be a bit of a surprise package this year, that might do well in their own province, might get to a provincial final, who could you see that being?
Right. Well, I mean, look at you have. I mean, there's a chance, obviously, because Cork and Kerry are meeting in a semi-final. I think in Munster, there's a chance for some of the other teams there, the Clare, Tipperary's, to come through there on the other side. I mean, Colin Collins, is it, the Clare manager? He's done a tremendous job with the Clare team. And they'd see their chance of getting through to a provincial final, as obviously Tipperary will as well. But I think Clare are a bit more further advanced on them. So they could be a team that could show up. I mean, look at, you also have Meath. I mean, they were very unlucky, I think, only to register 1 point in the Division 1. They lost a number of games by a point or two. I think that, Andy McEntee is having them, he's not, Meath aren't happy campers, if you like, that they're so far behind the Dubs at this stage. There was always a big rivalry there. And, whether they'll themselves or Kildare, would be the two that should be challenging or getting a bit closer to Dublin. So maybe there might be a couple of teams that might have a run in the championship, because certainly there's the standard overall of the Leinster Championship is quite poor in that sense. So there might be a couple of teams that might get through to provincial finals, or would see themselves as their ultimate, if you like, goal for the year 2020.
It's going to be an exciting championship for sure, John O'Mahony. John, thank you very much for joining me on the podcast.
You're very welcome. No problem, Ryan. Thank you very much.